Okay, so up next we have John Paller, who in addition to doing ETH Denver, has his own company, Opolis. Let's welcome John to the stage. Woo!
Hey. I asked the question, is everybody tired yet? Too bad. So we're about to kick off 36 hours of non-stop biddling. The real question is, who's ready for that? All right, so I'm going to take off my ETH Denver hat for a second. I'm going to talk about this thing called Opolis that I'm really passionate about. So in addition to building these types of collaborative events, we're working on building a protocol for collaborative employment. So Opolis is really focused on the infrastructure of employment, not just in terms of like what we think of as DAOs. So DAOs are really cool because it gives us a hope of governance in a different way futuristically. But the problem is we talk about this futuristic governance like we talk about sci-fi movies. The reality is that people don't really care about proposals. They don't really care about DAOs or voting. They don't really care about these things like we do. Now, I'm a giant crypto nerd, so like I care. I'm in, Kirk's in. The people in this room are in. But when we think about creating democratically based employment on a large scale, we have to think about how do we get from here to there. So the corporation as a vehicle of scaling employment has existed in the US lexicon for hundreds of years. And the reason why employees affiliate with these corporations is because they can arbitrage their time more efficiently working for a company than they can on their own. Purchasing power, time and attention, access to resources is very hard as an individual. But when you go work for a corporation, the United States has made it very easy. Or even internationally in first world countries, it's very easy. The problem is that the dynamic is not mutual. The problem is that the dynamic is not one that creates shared outcomes and buoyancy of profitability or even shared success. So what Opolis is building is essentially a protocol that allows for individuals to co-op together in a new shared infrastructure. It's not just a technological layer like we hear about in the blockchain space where we're going to solve everything with technology. It's actually a combination of a legal infrastructure as well as the technological infrastructure or the layer of technology on top. So the way that it works is we call these decentralized employment organizations. They're specifically designed to be your employer. It's not about just, hey, we're going to do a DAO and we're going to vote on some stuff and we're going to do some things. It actually replicates the exact experience of employment. So it will provide you in the United States a W-2. It will provide you your benefits. It will give you accounting and shared services resources and through the entire stack of your employment. Now, the way that we organize these things is through staking mechanisms to have skin in the game. And the voting, remember I said nobody really wants to vote? To start with, we have very, very light levels of governance. So it might be once a quarter, maybe a couple of times a year, really key things that hit home for people. If you look at public voting elections, people don't vote on stuff that happens in their city. They don't care. But what do they care about? They care about the things happening in their house, in their home. So we start with that layer, and then we build from there as behavior starts to change, as people take more responsibility for their decision making. Now the goal with the technology, when you think about the entire life cycle of what employment is, from finding work all the way through my employment, and then my tax reporting and all these other things I have to do, it is a giant nightmare. Freelancers like being free and flexible, but they hate the administrative nightmares of this. In order to create the full stack integration, we're going to be collaborating with dozens of projects in the ecosystem to create this new fabric or as I call it, the Kevlar quilt of employment, of integration. Now, ultimately, the goal of blockchain, we talk about this a lot, is like this mutuality of outcomes, right? So everybody wins, and we create these game theory systems that like you win, I win, everybody wins. But then when you look at the corporate infrastructure of how a lot of our blockchain companies are organized, they're centralized companies, and they have their own rent-seeking motivations and problems with just, how does collaboration work with these types of systems? We're actually creating a whole new level of governance and a co-op-based system so that the value creation of this network will be shared through not only the technology providers, but all the users of the protocol. Now, I talk about mutuality and sovereignty. Employment is the core economic engine of everything. If we solve employment at the base layer, where we can eliminate the conflicts of interest, the power vacuums, and the misalignments of outcomes, we can actually create all the other systems on top of this, because we create truly free markets. Employment is absolutely the key. Now, one component that we don't talk about much is we organize today geographically. So if you think about the one thing that we talk a lot about is like social systems or underpinnings. In a DEO, you could architect anything you want. If I self-determine my affiliation with a DEO, I could get together with all of you and say, well, we wanted to put together this thing called maybe universal basic employment, where if somebody's out of work, the group can create a system by which that person can have basic needs met while they're in transition. Now, which government do you know of that's actually ready and willing to do that today? Nobody. We fight about this stuff all the time, but creating self-determined outcomes in employment actually eliminates the debate altogether, because you know what? You don't want to be a part of it? Go to a different DEO. Go to one that suits you. And then we can be over here, or you can go over there, or wherever you want. There could be infinite numbers of combinations of social, political, geographic, and skills-based outcomes. This is just the beginning list of our collaboration. If you're interested in joining the conversation, we don't have any bounties, but we do have a sticker and an NFT to come get. So if you do want to talk to us about what's going on, see us up at our table, and we're happy to talk to you a little bit more about what we're doing in collaboration with these projects. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy ETH Denver. If there's anything we can do to improve your experience, let us know.